Chelsea.
Aye, Lords. The amendments in this and the next group set out to remove criminalisation of elements of so-called hate crime on grounds that include incoherence, ineffectiveness and divisiveness. Anyone proposing amendment of this sort risks being seen as favouring hate crime and hate speech, of being careless or reckless about the real hurt that individuals at the receiving end of hate speech or hate crime might feel. The opposite is the case here. I vigorously oppose racism and any other form of discrimination, but I believe that both the concept and the implementation of hate crime law is not just ineffective, but counterproductive. There are three types of hate crime law that I seek to amend in this and in the following amendment. First, direct criminalisation of certain offensive words. Second, an enhanced sentence when a crime is aggravated by directing certain offensive words towards individuals with certain protected characteristics. And third, stirring up offences based on use of offensive words, behaviour or material so as to arouse hatred against an individual with certain protected characteristics. This, my first amendment, abolishes the criminalisation of particular offensive words that are merely grossly offensive, while the amendment still leaves in place the sanctioning of any words that would cause or provoke actual or fear of violence. In our national history, my lords, hate crime law is new. We got along perfectly well without it for many centuries, until the 1965 Race Relations Act was passed to prevent race violence and discrimination. We've now gone a long way further than that first law, with hate crime legislation embedded in a number of different acts, covering both deeds and thoughts, going beyond race into a number of different protected characteristics, the most recent of these being transgender. Sometimes all that's needed for a conviction is if the victim, or indeed any person, takes offence, sometimes with no test of reasonableness. Many see this as having divided society into warring grievance groups. These laws are not working. Unintended consequences roll in. Hard cases make bad law. Criminalise one obviously appalling thing, and it's hard not by doing that to criminalise other not so appalling things. So Graham Linehan is arrested by 5 armed police at the airport. You get police incented to pursue soft targets for soft crimes. You get police encouraged into a Stasi mindset, telling ordinary citizens, I need to check your thinking. Have these laws created social cohesion? No. Anti-Semitism, for example, has suddenly become widespread in our country. These laws are confusing. Late last year, the College of Policing issued guidance on female genital mutilation, stating trans women, which is to say men, whether holding a gender recognition certificate or not, are just as threatened by female genital mutilation as are women and girls. This, my lords, was utterly absurd. But if you say it's wrong, you have to be prepared for possible investigation by well-meaning but improperly informed police. These laws are cluttering up the justice system. I think noble lords understand this, but I will talk about it in greater detail when I get to my second amendment later. These laws are onerous upon the innocent. It is difficult to exaggerate, my lords, the devastating effect that an arrest and the subsequent multi-month legal process can have on a law-abiding citizen, even when, at the end of it, they are exonerated. An overall hate narrative has spread across politics and society, with so many random accusations of hate speech or hate crime leading to controversy or worse. Charlie Kirk was shot dead in America by someone who had been persuaded that Kirk had been hateful against the trans community. Last month, a teacher was referred to the National Counter-Terror Program and forced out of his job after showing videos of Donald Trump to his sixth form politics students. These laws are crushing our country's free speech tradition, the heartland of our national character and the driver of our national success over the centuries. In America, their First Amendment is that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. In our own history, George Orwell is venerated for saying free speech is worthless unless it extends to things that people do not want to hear. Lord Justice Sedley, venerated for saying free speech includes not only the inoffensive, but the irritating, the contentious, the eccentric, the heretical, the unwelcome, and the provocative, provided it does not tend to promote violence. Freedom only to speak inoffensively, he said, is not worth having. We revere our Queen, Elizabeth I, for saying she had no desire to look into a man's soul, but now we have judges looking into men's souls on a regular basis. Along with the suppression of free speech, cancel culture has flourished. A woman in a Stoke-on-Trent focus group that I observed shocked me when she said, to general agreement in the group, of course, none of us can say what we're really thinking. The organisation Freedom in the Arts ran a large UK survey in 2024-25. 84% of artists say that they never, rarely, or only sometimes feel free to speak about their social or political opinions for fear of ostracism, bullying, or loss of work. Until people can say, my lords, what they're thinking, so long, of course, as they don't incite imminent violence, then we do not have our traditionally free country. Turning to the key provisions in my amendment, removing criminalisation of specific offensive words are 1, 2, 5A and 5B, 6 and 8 through 12. Provision 1 repeals the Malicious Communications Act, 1988. A person can currently be sentenced under that Act to up to 2 years if they send a letter or electronic message that either is intended to cause distress or anxiety, or that it employs indecent or grossly offensive words. A well-known report from Big Brother Watch found that over a 3-year period there were over 1,000 charges and over 600 cautions under this Act. Provision 2 omits Section 127 of the Communications Act 2003, jail for up to 6 months for sending a grossly offensive message or a message that's of an indecent, obscene or menacing character, or knowingly sending a false message to cause annoyance, inconvenience or needless anxiety. The Big Brother Watch report showed nearly 3,000 charges and over 1,000 cautions under Section 127. These various numbers have probably increased, not declined, since that report. A lad stupidly joked on Twitter that if Robin Hood Airport wasn't going to be open next week, then he would blow it up. He was convicted under Section 127, and it took 3 appeals before that was overturned. The process was his punishment for someone who was innocent. Under these 2 acts, the Big Brother Watch report found at least 355 cases involving social media, with the rate increasing, not declining. Provisions 5A and 5B of my amendment amend Section 4 of the Public Order Act 1986, up to 6 months, for intending to make likely or cause someone to believe that immediate unlawful violence will take place when either using threatening, abusive, or insulting words or behaviour, or distributing or displaying threatening, abusive, or insulting signs. My amendment leaves the word threatening in place, but removes the words abusive and insulting. Threatening behaviour involving imminent unlawful violence should clearly be illegal, but surely, my lords, that is enough. Provision 6 removes sections 4A and 5 of the same Act. Under 4A, a person can go down for 6 months for intentionally using threatening, abusive or insulting signs, or for disorderly behaviour, causing harassment, alarm or distress to any person likely to be caused thereby. Section 5 does the same as 4A, but for if no intent is shown and the punishment is accordingly less. My provision seeks to remove criminalisation of causing harassment, alarm or distress, whether intentional or not. All the above seek to remove criminalisation of words that can intentionally or otherwise cause distress to an individual. For centuries, school children in our country were commonsensically taught in the playground, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, of course, some words did hurt to some degree, my lords, but through that saying, we all learnt to be phlegmatic and move on in life, regardless of what other people had to say. Provisions 8 through 12 relate to the stirring up of racial hatred, either intentionally or where in the circumstances it is likely. My amendment abolishes criminalisation of abusive or insulting words while again keeping the word threatening. Again, I hope noble lords will agree with me that threatening is sufficient here. My lords, current hate speech law goes too far in criminalising words and thoughts. Basic freedoms are being trampled on. Frank expression of thoughts, fears or perceptions is suppressed. Setting people free to speak their mind can indeed result in ugly or upsetting scenes. Most of us wish to be courteous and hate upsetting anybody, but some people do get upset easily. Moreover, bad actors can, and often do, claim to be or perform being upset. No free society should encourage that by over-criminalising words. I beg to move.